Live from Radio Row in Minnesota, it's Levack and Goss on 104.5 The Team.
It has become a annual tradition to speak to Randy Grimes, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, which is interesting that Goss is such a Bucs fan, and somehow the one guy he never fails to book is one of the great
wait a
Buccaneers.
minute, there's a Bucs fan out there?
This guy
right here, yeah.
Hey, those are far and few between.
When I was growing up, it was the glory days of Derek Brooks and Warren and Sapp and Mike Alston. So when you're a little kid and you see pirate ships and you're near Disney World and you see good football, that's got to be your team.
Were we still in creamsicle?
No,
Orange?
thank goodness guys got out of that.
Oh, come on, man.
See, I like that better, to be honest with you.
Yeah. You just hurt my feelings.
Really? You like the creamsicle?
I wore it for 10 years. I was forced to like it. It kind of grows on you after a while.
It is. It's one of those.
It brought out my eyes.
Well, it's one of those challenge things. It's like, you can't look tough in this. Oh, really? Let's go. Let's have at it then. And me, I grew up a Raiders fan, so I hear great Buccaneers teams and I cry a little bit.
Well, hey, you know what? She had just gotten pregnant. This was we just left Baylor University. It was a great place to go and start a family, to raise our family, and our decade out there was awesome. We had some of the best friends. We had some of the best players and coaches. We just never won any games. That little part was a problem.
Just that little thing.
Yeah.
And Lydia is who you're talking about.
Lydia, my
beautiful
wife, right.
Who is,
and their
here.
checks never bounced. That
very
was
good.
important too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's how we call our bosses. Just kidding. You guys are great. We love you. Thanks for sending us to Minnesota.
Paydays on Wednesday.
So interesting because you have this great message, athletes in recovery.
Right.
And, me, like a lot of us, our glory days are like junior year in high school or whatever, some crazy thing like that. I had never experienced Toradol until about 2 months ago. I had blown my back up. I could barely walk. And my doc goes, you're about to find out why NFL and major athletes get hooked. He goes, so we're going to do this right. He did kind of tongue-in-cheek joking, but at the same time, I hobbled in and I strolled out.
Right.
A little shot of Toradol, pain was gone, full motion, the whole nine. One shot made me feel like my back was back to where it should have been the whole time. So all this time that you and I have been talking, I'm sitting here going, I don't think any of that would get to me. I don't know how it wasn't even a football injury. Like I sneezed too hard and hurt my back, and it was like, right. So I can now, like, obviously I don't understand the full scope of it, but here's a little snapshot of just day-to-day life, and I'm like, holy,
but you understand that warrior mentality where you're going to go take care of it yourself. You're going to suffer in silence. You're not going to complain about your injury. And that's what professional athletes go through when they play. And even when they leave the game, because they leave the game with those same injuries and that same behavior of self-medicating and taking care of themselves. And one thing leads to another. Things get out of control. The injuries just keep getting worse. The addiction, the tolerance keeps getting worse, and next thing you know, life is completely unmanageable. And, unfortunately, you die from this. This disease is no joke. Last year alone, and I'm talking about addiction and mainly opioid addiction, it killed more people than the entire Vietnam War, and it's a leading killer of people under 50.
Randy Grimes with us, Lydia Grimes with us as well, talking about just the recovery, how to recover. Everyone's so focused on concussions now. Concussions. Because where does that factor in? Like, do you look at that and go, that's important, but don't forget about life after football?
Right.
Like, how do you guys visual that as people who help people get off of the painkillers?
Well, and we see a lot of the two together. Guys are self-medicating just to try to feel normal from their CTE or their traumatic brain injuries. They want to numb up, or they actually feel like that they're normal, that they're talking normal, they're acting normal, when really they're sleeping all day, they're nodding off, very unusual, erratic behavior, and a lot of times the two go together. So we see a lot of it, but we know that we have to remove the drugs and alcohol from the picture so we can get a baseline and see where they are with the TBI and CTE. So the two do go hand in hand a lot, but also there's so many underlying issues. And, I talk a lot about the things that I went through. It was more than just about getting high or self-medicating the injuries. It was, I didn't want to feel, because when I left the game, I didn't know who I was, what I was going to do, what I was capable. I'd forgotten how to be a husband, a father, a neighbor, an employee. You know, I didn't know. I had such an identity problem, you know, when I wasn't Randy Grimes, the football player, anymore. And a lot of guys still go through with that. You know, I see them on a daily basis when they come to our facility. When, you know, we work with the Player Care Foundation, with Major League Baseball. You know, baseball players are just like the football players, you know, that warrior mentality. And I see a lot of that with them, too.
I think one of the toughest parts maybe when you're in that sports setting, if you see one of your teammates going through it, and maybe that's the process of when you're an athlete, you've touched on this, that you think you're the alpha. You don't need help. You can do it on your own. You can beat it. What advice would you say if maybe a teammate's watching one of their fellow athletes go through this? How would you help them try to get help through a teammate?
Well, and it's funny you say that, because that's something we talk about with families. You know, we know that when families get well, addicts get well, but families are so quick to bury their head in the sand and just they either think the problem is going to go away or it's not their problem, so they're not going to deal with it, you know, and it's about education. So I would want people like that to know that there are resources and people out there available. There's people like me out there available. You can get to us on bhpalmbeach.com, Athletes in Recovery Facebook page, my Facebook page, Lydia's Facebook page, but there are resources. And what defines addiction is anything that makes life unmanageable. So you can see if somebody's life is becoming unmanageable, and you know, reach out for help. It is a disease. You know, it's not going to get better on its own. It's just going to keep getting worse.
Randy Grimes with us, Lydia Grimes with us, and again, it's the Facebook.com Athletes in Recovery, the bhpalmbeach.com. So, all that being said, you know, you've had to go through all this stuff just to, like you said, remember how to be a husband, to be a father, whatever. Do you still love the game? Do you still watch football?
I love it. I'll always love football. You know, people ask me all the time what I miss most about it, and it's not being out on the field. It's not being between the bleachers under the lights. It's being in that locker room and being with those guys. Game time, during the week, being out on the practice field with them, just cutting up, and that camaraderie that goes with your teammates. And that's what I miss the most about it.
Super Bowl 52,
yeah.
Eagles, Patriots.
Wow, yeah.
What do you think about the early thoughts on this matchup?
You know, it's experience versus momentum, and that's tough. I don't think I could ever bet against Brady right now. I mean, he's proved us wrong.
You're not sick of him yet? I mean, come on. Let's get like seriously, come on.
I can't get sick. I can't get sick about perfection, and those guys seem to always pull it off. You know, I like the chances of the Eagles. I like the momentum that they have. I like the youth of their team. I really like how they got to where they are. But, man, how can you go against the Brady? And my wife's you know, my wife's maiden name is Brady, so they might be kin.
I think he's my cousin.
Listen, you owe her some money. You haven't been to any of the family reunions. Stop by.
Right, exactly.
The least you can do. So, all right, so this is my fourth Super Bowl I've covered, and they've been 3 of the 4. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is what, your 9th?
9th, yeah.
So what do you go back to? The Steelers?
I took Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Fort Lauderdale, or Miami.
Okay, all the way back. All right, so Colts, Bears.
Right. I was 6 months sober when I did that.
Really?
Yeah, we were already started this program working with professional athletes.
How much did that scare you? You're 6 months sober,
yeah,
and now you're going to go bare your soul to 100 radio and TV stations.
You know, I needed to. I needed that accountability. I needed people like you and people like her to see my eyes and hear my voice every day. I needed some accountability, and that helped me, especially in those early days, that first year. I just needed that structure in my life. So as many people as I could tell and open up to about, you know, that helped me more than anything.
All right, so I'm doing the math. So there's 1, 2, 3. There's like 5 of the 9 Super Bowls you've covered. You've been part of.
Right.
I think it's time for the Super Bowl to admit it's addicted to the Patriots, and you guys got to help them get rid of the Patriots.
Right. Hey, that's another scandal they can write about, right?
They're addicted to the Patriots. No, it's always great to talk to you, Randy Grimes, because this is my 4th year. The first year you sat down, I'm like, this is addiction. We cannot have fun at all. Like we have to get the message out. And then like I remember my coach time was Armin. He's like, why were you so serious? Like, what? That's not like. And then ever since then, I found out how much fun you are, and we really appreciate when you come.
Well, here's the thing. Last year, too, by the way, our luggage outlaw interviewed Randy in a T-shirt, sweatpants, unshaven.
With stains all over.
That's right. Yeah. It was still cool with us.
Well, I sat in front of our Airbnb, tapping my foot, waiting for delivery of all of our stuff. Like, dear God, if it doesn't get here. No, you're always great, and again. I think it's the way you do attack with humor and everything, and that you do still love the game that makes your message so clean and so pure.
Well, I have a lot to be grateful for, and I am every day, and I'm grateful for the fact that she's still with me because I put her through hell.
Now you've been through the whole thing?
20-plus years, she's been there the whole ride. But she's so good with families, and we know that when families get well, addicts get well, and we know that that's, I don't know what the solution is to what's going on out there in this opiate crisis, but it's an epidemic that's killing an entire generation right in front of us. But we do know that it's about education, about working with families, and when families get well, addicts get well, and she's so good at that.
Randy, I got to ask you, what I never thought I would ask this question out loud, but we've heard some current players say that the answer to the opioids is maybe legalizing marijuana.
Right.
Is that something that you've seen any studies or anything, or is that just replacing one drug with another drug?
In my line of work, yes. I'm open-minded enough to know that there might be something out there that can help. But listen, I've got a whole treatment center in West Palm Beach full of people that started with marijuana. I mean, the marijuana that's out there today is not the same stuff we had when we were kids. I mean, this stuff is genetically engineered. It's
Right.
It ain't your grandmama's THC. So, I would like to see more research, more data, but I also know that it's trading one addiction for another.
Randy and Lydia Grimes, we love you guys. We always appreciate when you stop on by. And
thank you for having us.
Let's like I said, this is 4 times with us together. Let's do 4 more at least.
Sounds great.
I love it. Thank you so much for sitting down and helping us, get the message out, have a little fun.